Kunitsu Gami is the epitome of a Game Pass game, and I do mean that in the best way possible. Kunitsu Gami Path of the Goddess is best described as a mix of real-time strategy and tower defense game with some light base building. The bulk of the game takes place in levels that involve you guiding the Divine Maiden along a preset path, all the while rescuing villagers, assigning them roles, and gathering resources. This is during the day. The game shifts then and at night, where the tower defense starts. The Maiden stays in one place. You have to decide how you place your villagers to defend her and attack the monsters. The character can also attack and defend. Survive the night, and you carry on with your day tasks. Once the Maiden has reached her destination, the level is cleared. Outside of this, you have a few bosses to tackle, as well as the base building aspect. Base building provides a chill interlude between levels where there's no rush. I was a big fan of this mechanic of having a moment to just upgrade your units, pet some animals, or you then carried on with the game. Now, I'm a sucker for a game with low story that sticks you into it straight away, and Kunitsu Gami did not disappoint. You play as a swordsman, tasked with defending the Maiden, and the tutorial throws you in straight away, fighting enemies, teaching you movement, how to control and position the NPCs. I will say though, first impressions weren't great. Combat felt a bit loosey-goosey with no lock-on or auto-targeting. This seemed to be an omission. As you play on, you realize that it's mostly larger hordes of enemies you're fighting, so precision isn't always necessary. It was good to see that my first impression here was wrong, but unfortunately, my first impression of the NPC AI was that it was a little useless. Unless you were positioning them smack in front of the enemies, they'd usually go awry and miss them. Finishing up the game, I'd say it was about 50-50. Sometimes it seemed like they would take the initiative, other times they'd just watch as an enemy passed them. Speaking of the NPCs, they look great. A huge number of roles they can take on, ranging from ones you'd expect like the woodcutter, a basic melee unit, or archer, and then onto support roles like the ascetic, who slows enemies, or the shaman, who's the healer. Each role has a very distinctive look, and the idle and fighting animations look great. Tons of little details. During the day they might dance, and then as night falls things get more serious and it's all battle stances and shouts. The enemies then, the sea, they're similarly well detailed. They're based off yokai, Japanese mythical ghosts, but seems to be only the particularly creepy and moldy ones here. The defilement you're purging is represented by these grotesque kind of H.R. Geiger looking growths, and this is great for juxtaposing the difference then when you do finish a level and everything returns to the idyllic scenic mountainside village. It was surprising that each new level introduced new enemy types, and the game was still introducing new unit types right up until the last level. It kept things fresh enough, as I was worried that the gameplay loop would get repetitive fast, but in the end I did love that I was able to anticipate what the game would be all the way through. I knew that if I had an hour to sit down and play, I could get 1 or 2 levels done, some of the base building, maybe a boss battle. It was a great pick up and play kind of game. When I hit the credits, I had 15 hours logged. As a dad, I think this is the perfect sweet spot for a game. Enough time to learn the mechanics and get heavily into it, but not so long that I would become deflated knowing that I'd never get it actually finished. It's also the perfect amount of time that I'm actually in between two minds. Didn't overstay its welcome, but I'm extremely hopeful for a slightly longer sequel that gives you just a little bit more. As I said at the start, I truly think this is where the value of Game Pass lies. I saw this get added to the service and thought nothing of it. Then someone on a podcast mentioned that it might be like Pikmin, and that was enough to pique my interest. I do think it's definitely worth it. That's a hard ask for someone with limited time and money. But with Game Pass, I was able to try it, see if it was something I liked, and it was. I sincerely hope to see more games like this in the AA space. This game specifically, there was clearly a very specific vision for this, and there's no tacked on extras that feel like they were bolted on to add more value. So if you made it to the end of the video, thank you. Please subscribe if you want to see more reviews.